Another riff I got from the Lord Iommi swap meet garage sale. You know, what's that riff over there? Is it? I'll take that one, Behind the Plate. See how simple you can write a song. Just with I'll give you this ingredients. And let's see you make a meal out of it. Yeah, just comedy, you know, because it's just like, here's the biggest show on the planet, right? And there's always got to be some Spinal Tap moments going on. It without fail. And then, you know, when I got the call from Jackie Boy, you know, that Oz passed away, I was shocked because I didn't picture him. Keith Richards, Lemmy, Ozzy, you just picture they're like the air you breathe and they're going to be around forever. And I think that's the beauty of a guitar. You know what I mean? It's just because it's so expressive, you know, because I remember even Rudy Sarzo was like, Zakk, like Randy, he goes, his touch was so light.
This is Amit from Guitar World. Today we're at the Sanctum Hotel in London with Mr. Zakk Wylde. How's it going, mate? Music to my ears.
Just talking about that's exactly what I hear when the immortal beloved is speaking. But I'm doing great. How you been, man?
Yeah,
good to see you again,
good.
buddy. Yeah, without a doubt.
See you again, man. So this is all very exciting. You have a new Black Label Society album out, Engines of Demolition.
Yes, as you can clearly see on the Wrathmaker, this is done on purpose because so I know what band I'm in at the moment and what the name of the new record is. So, and just in case I forget, because I don't know whether I'm in Pantera Celebration, Zach Sabbath, Experience Hendrix, Generation Axe, or when I'm doing dishes or laundry, or else we're doing Black Label at the moment. So that's what's going on. Anyways, yeah.
Well, every little helps, as they say.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah, it's all very exciting. Lots of new tunes, lots of new riffs. Something you know a thing or two about. If you were to choose a favourite riff on this album, as hard as that may be, what would it be and could you play it?
Yes, we'll do it nice and simple here. This is Name in Blood, and it's obviously the guitar's tuned to C sharp, Lord Iommi C sharp. And then when you have a drop D or a drop B, this brings it to a, you know, because you want to reach out to your audience. So this way, not only just humans, but whales can hear this actual, you know, sonically whales tuning over here. So we got a drop D. So what you mean, instead of just doing a two Ds, there you go. So you'll have two Bs. There you go. But this one. That's Name in Blood. As you can clearly see, you want to keep the riffs as simple as possible. Just in case you need to do dishes and laundry, give the wife a foot massage, make your buddy an adult beverage or something like that. So you can be able to function and do both things at the same time. There you go, Name in Blood.
Beautiful stuff. I love the intro bit has this kind of almost AC/DC feel to it because you're using your fingers, you're bringing down the dynamics. You know, I don't know why, but when I hear that,
totally.
I'm kind of thinking Angus.
Whenever I think about it, I think about the Who. You got Won't Get Fooled Again meets for those about to rock AC/DC, then you also have King Edward doing it in little guitars as well, with the chicken picking and everything like that. But yeah, totally.
Beautiful.
The influence is strong, that's for sure.
And let's talk a bit about this latest model from Wild Audio then. Quite an interesting design.
Well, originally, I was going to call it the Joe Pass Pat Martino model, as you can clearly see, the jazz influence. But no, it's the, I mean, I just have a blast when I'm making whatever guitar design it is I'm going to do with, obviously the Odins, the Barbarians, or ideas, just tweak on a classic design. And then, but these are just like, whatever guitars I thought were like, like when I was 15 or 16, you're just going, man, look at this. I mean, like insane shape of a guitar, just whatever ugly duckling I could possibly find. And then you just blend a couple different body shapes into one thing, into a blender. And I'll just draw them out. Then we'll do a cardboard cutout of it, to see if if the size is right. And then we do a wood body of it. And then if it fits right, then we just, then we put them into production, because then I'll get it back finished with the neck on it and everything like that. Because the neck dimensions are my dimensions that I dig. Then, with the 6100 fret wire on it, which is kind of high, 6000's even higher. So, so it's almost like it's scalloped. But obviously, if we're going to put a nice top on it, you put a veneer on the top, because you got a flat body. So it's not, there's no, you don't have a curve on the body. So you could put a beautiful piece of veneer, like a beautiful piece of quilted maple or tiger top or whatever, on both sides. So, but this is just, on this guy, it's just a mahogany body. Your tried and true woods that sound good. So it's just mahogany body. And then you have the maple neck, ebony fretboard, got the Grover tuners, you got the EMGs in it, and Tone Pros hardware. So it all has all upgrades on it. So, yeah, and that's it. Straight out of the box, man. So, I mean, they do a crushing job with these things, man. But then again, with all my Eppies and my Gibsons, they were all crushing as well. I mean, they as far as the consistency, and I never picked one up and was like, what's going on with quality control over there? You know what I mean? So all slamming.
And I think that EMGs, they're a big part of your sound.
Exactly.
When I think of the 81, 85 set.
Oh, if you want clarity, you can't beat them.
Yeah, of course. I think you once told me how when you first discovered them, it was like almost like there'd been a blanket on top of your amp.
Yeah,
up till that point, totally. And then suddenly, wow,
if you had a moving blanket on top of this, it would be muffled. And then once you take the moving blanket off, then you can. It's like, oh wow, there's all the highs. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, that was my first experience with EMGs. I was just like, wow, I was already sold, and that was before I started playing with the Boss.
Of course.
So, I was just heard it because I was just like, what kind of pickups are those? And it was just like, oh, those are EMGs. You got to put a battery in your guitar. I was like, a battery? That didn't even make sense. You know what I mean? And he goes, oh yeah, there's like a 9-volt battery in there. I was like, oh wow. And then, but hearing was believing, because I was just like, wow, this just sounds, the clarity, the shimmering highs, the mids, and the bottom. Well, just think about it. It's a pickup. That's what pickups are. It's a microphone. That's what they are. So if you have a $12,000 Telefunken microphone tube mic, I mean, the clarity that you're going to get out of that thing compared to, I mean, there is no bad or better. It depends on what sound you want or what flavor you want in the soup.
Speaking of that new album, the final track, of course, is a really moving, heartfelt tribute to your former boss, Ozzy Song.
Yeah.
Can you talk me through how you wrote it, what was going through your mind when you wrote it, and how maybe the melody and the harmony conveys the sentiment of the track?
Well, I wrote the music before Oz passed away. So I had the music, and I was just like, obviously I want to do something with it. I got to put a melody to it and sing on it. But when after Oz passed away, when we went back to England and we laid Ozzy to rest, right from that I went straight to what do we play? Jones Beach in New York with Pantera celebrations, with Phil, Rex, and Charlie. So I hooked back up with the fellas, and we were back rolling. And then when we got done with the Pantera celebration run, when I got home, I was just sitting in the house, and is when I wrote the lyrics. and just sang the song. So it was after we laid Ozzy to rest is when and I was just thinking about Oz, and then I just wrote the lyrics.
That partnership that you guys had together was so special. What we want to do is just dissect a couple of the classic riffs and tracks that you guys cooked up together. I think maybe a great place to start would be Miracle Man, because that is just one of my ultimate kind of Ozzy riffs. You're on the second fret and you're kind of using the lowest strings against like the highest strings. It's a really clever riff, very effective.
Well, I mean, everything comes from somewhere, right? You got it. And that's why, I always say when you're learning other people's songs, I mean, it goes into your DNA and whatever, So, I mean, whatever riffs it is that you're learning, you just always use everything as reference, and because that's how you learn. So, but that is from me learning how to play Foxy Lady, and it's just like, oh, that's cool, what I mean? But all I did was but it's from me learning how to play specific songs, you know what I mean? So, and then you just tweak them, bend them, and then next thing you know, it's a whole nother song, And one of my friends actually thought that I got the Miracle Man thing from, which Randy uses that in Diary of a Madman.
Yes.
And I was just like, oh, wow, I didn't even think about that. But I mean, I got it from Purple Haze, but I could have, I'm just saying, if I never learned, Foxy Lady, if it was from Diary of a Madman, I could have used it from that. But I'm just saying, it's just your knowledge and everything that you can reference things, whether it's a Stone song, whether it's a Beatles thing, or production wise, you know what I mean? Like you hear like a backwards echo thing, you're like, oh man, it'd be cool if we used that on this, you know what I mean? Going right into the vocal on the last verse or whatever. So yeah, I think even when you're just sitting around listening to music, it's part of your education. You know what I mean? So you're just, because you're just retaining all this knowledge like a sponge.
Another one of my favorite riffs is Desire from the No More Tears album, and that has a similar kind of thing where you build it from that one harmonic chord.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a classic riff. I think many years later, I heard a Foo Fighters song that reminded me a little bit of it. Did you?
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
Did it sound familiar?
Cool. Yeah, it's awesome though. Dave's awesome, so without a doubt. But yeah, it's just like, but I'm saying Dave might have heard it from that and said, "Oh, it's a cool riff," we'll just try it. But Dave turned it into a whole nother song. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's all good, man.
I mean,
like I said, it's no different than me getting a Foxy Lady thing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You twist it and bend it and turn it into a whole nother song.
I mean, that No More Tears album, I think, is just chock full of classic guitar moments and riffs. But if anyone asks me, like, what is the perfect example of how a guitar solo can elevate a song, No More Tears will always be like on the tip of my tongue. I mean, that for me, it was an amazing track, but the way your solo stands out from the kind of orchestral bit that precedes it to how you lift it, and obviously it starts quite slow and mournful, and it ends with those really fast kind of triad arpeggios, just to kind of seal it all off with an exclamation point.
No, actually, I think when we did that solo, because usually I'll sit down and I'll compose a solo, just so it has the Randy Rhoads school of soloing, so it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. But like with No More Tears, I remember down, down, after we had that bit, down, 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 down to, the rest of it, I was just improvising on the spot. And then I forget how maybe the ending, if I did that all in one take, like I'm saying, or else I got to that spot and I just said, let me just figure out something at the end here I want to put. And then I don't know if I punched me in or I just played it one shot. But I remember that was a one take solo because a bunch of the other ones I would double.
Yeah.
But that one's just a single track solo on that one.
Yeah. You must be very proud. I mean, it stood the test of time. It is one of your greatest compositions,
Cheers, brother. But I mean, like that one or the Mama I'm Coming Home solo, that's obviously the Joe Walsh lick at the end. I do. It's my love for the Eagles and Joe Walsh and everything like that. But yeah, because I would always reference things, and that, like you said, that lick and at the end of that that's from Joe Walsh from Hotel California, where I got that from. So once again, it's where all this knowledge that you take in and you reference things and then you take things and then you either tweak them or it's where it's part of your education, where you get it from.
Of course.
And what inspires you and everything like that.
Because when you talk about some of your more country influences, I don't want to change the world.
Even the main lick, that that's my love of the Eagles and country stuff and Albert Lee and country guitar players, but that's like me imitating a pedal steel lick, that's what it is.
Of course. But those country influences sometimes come through on tracks that feel quite far from it. Like, I don't want to change the world. The way you start your solo is with like this kind of frenetic kind of chicken picking thing.
Yeah, totally. That's what it is.
And then it turns into one of the most aggressive solos on that album. And again, I love the fact that you're kind of taking us on a bit of a wild joyride. It's a bit of a roller coaster where, I don't know, it's a journey. And I think that's what a great solo should be. It's a song within a song.
Without a doubt. That's the Randy Rhoads school of solo writing, for sure, man. Without a doubt. Because all Randy solos they're composed pieces of music it's a song within the song. Totally.
Yeah. And a few years down the line, I know you co-wrote Perry Mason as well, which is, an interesting track. That riff's quite strange. And obviously you kind of use these unison bends quite a lot within the track as well to kind of really create all this excitement and drama. What do you remember about putting that one together?
Well, actually, that all started with John Sinclair on the keyboards. John came up with that dun 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 dun. I remember when we were in rehearsal, John was doing that. I was like, oh, that's cool. Then we came in with that and that was with Randy Castillo and all the guys. That's how when that stuff was written. And then because it was that we had C on the other side and everything like that. But then later on we ended up tracking it that was in '95 when we ended up doing that in New York and in Paris with Michael Beinhorn. And Geezer, it was Oz Geezer and Dean Casanova. We ended up doing those tracks. But yeah, Perry Mason, then the octave lick, that down, yeah, with the flat five in there with the Tony, the Lord Iommi flat five. Another riff I got from the Lord Iommi swap meet garage sale. What's that riff over there? I'll take that one behind the plate. You know what I mean? But from No More Tears to Perry Mason, you put that flat five in there, so it sounds so it just sounds heavy. But
of course,
totally, man.
And moving into some of the Black Label Society classic stuff, I think Stillborn is one of your most played songs. I love the fact that you seem to make a riff almost completely out of harmonics on the second fret.
Well, if you think about it, it's just like whether all your favorite riffs. Like when I first started, you got. I'm saying when you were a kid and you just learned how to. Yeah, I'm just saying, it's just like, oh wow, I can play Iron Man. It's just like because you don't know bar chords yet. You just know one stringer. Yeah, I'm just saying when I was a kid, like, oh my God, I can play Queen. So, yeah, I just always like when we're making records, it's just like, all right, write me a song with I'll take all these crayons away because you'll be forced. If I only give you a red and a white, you're like, oh, well, I only got two colors. But if you blend the red with the white, then you end up with pink. So what I'm saying, you really have three. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter, you know, I'd be like, wow, where'd you get that third? Would you have a pink crayon? You're like, no, I blended the two together. So when you have less options, then you either have to use your imagination to figure out how you can fill, you know, just make it as simple as possible. Because, like, you know, a lot of people say, oh man, with Pro Tools, could you imagine how great Sergeant Pepper's would have been, or are you, you know, with Jimi Hendrix, are you experienced? Imagine if Jimi Hendrix had all this stuff around, or Jimmy Page had all this stuff around back in 1969, or A Whole Lot of Love, what it would have sounded like. I go, it wouldn't have sounded like it did. Because they had the resources that they had, and they had, I mean, for them, it wasn't limited resources, because to them, they were like, man, we got more than what Elvis had. You know what I mean? Because Elvis only had, if Elvis had a 2-track where they had to stick the mic in the room and you only had 2 tracks, or 1 track, this way, if you got, you know, if you have 4 tracks, you know, Jimmy Page could bounce it down. So we got 8 tracks, you know what I mean? So like, you have to use your imagination, whether like Dark Side of the Moon, if that album was made today, it wouldn't sound, the outcome wouldn't be what we know, because you're forced to have to use your imagination if you have left with limited resources. Because then you gotta bounce tracks down, then you gotta do this and that, and then you have all these happy mistakes that happen in between because you're trying to do something. It's just like, oh my God, how did that? It's like, bro, if we weren't bouncing them, that would never have happened. You know what I mean? So, you know, as far as like getting back to writing, is like, I mean, that's the riff. You know what I mean? So. And then you got your, always got to stick that flat line in there. You always have to have the Lord I owe me scary note in there. But no, I mean, for me, it's just see how simple you can write a song. Just with, I'll give you this ingredients. Let's see you make a meal out of it. You know what I mean? You're like, all right, let me figure out what I'm going to do here. You know, because when you think about, you know, you look at Paranoid, you look at all these great songs, Whole Lot of Love, Smoke on the Water. It's the simplicity in the meal, you know, or Stones or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just the simplicity of it.
Because another classic riff on the Blessed Hell Ride is Funeral Bell. Again, it's just one note that you're palm muting and just kind of chugging away on.
Oh, it's another, once again, drop B again, right? Gotta get the whale tuning in properly. And that's that one. But I mean, but once again, it's just dun 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 dun. You know, just keep it as simple as you can, man.
Of course. We were talking a bit about your Hendrix influences a little bit earlier. I think maybe they're most prevalent on the track Machine Gun Man from the Pride and Glory album, which is a bit of a cult classic. Sorry, I'm making you tune up and down today.
It's all good.
But, you know, I mean, that riff is such a beautiful riff. I think it's one of your most melodic riffs, perhaps, and definitely got that Hendrix feel to it, right?
Yeah, you know, smashed around for a little bit, but let me see. I mean, I always loved it, you know, I mean, when I, you know, first started learning, like, all these, just how, you know, Stonesy and Hendrixy, that stuff all sounds, you know. with Lost Prayer and stuff like that. It's all Hendrixy kind of, because Jimmy's always, with Little Wing and stuff like that. I mean, that's the chord inversions that he's using on. But it's always beautiful sounding stuff though. But Machine Gun Man. So just simple E minor, and you have all the Allman Brothers stuff, just all that, because you're in E major, with the pentatonics.
Nice. So the last time me and you caught up, I think it was at Wembley Arena when Pantera came and headlined there, and that was such an epic night. Obviously, you've been having an absolute blast on this tour, paying tribute to your friends, celebrating this amazing legacy. That's probably a hard question to answer, but if there was one favourite track on the set list that every night seems to, for whatever reason, be your favourite?
I mean, well, obviously I'm Broken, then, once again, there's one note, well, actually two notes there, but I mean, I'm Broken, obviously is always fun, man, but the whole show, man, I mean, from obviously New Level, I mean, when we were opening up with that, and then I guess 5 minutes alone, I mean, that one's always fun. That one, I mean, this love and everything like that, when we're going through all the greatest hits, and then, but when we were at the end, when we were doing I'll Cast a Shadow and all the, like the deeper cuts and stuff like that, those are always fun to play too. You know what I mean? So actually the whole thing, I mean, there's not, it's not like I can't wait to get to this song. I mean, it's just like the whole ride is it's just a blast being out there with the guys celebrating the fellas.
For sure. I love the fact that you were using some of Dime's gear as well, and you brought on Grady Champion as tech as well.
Yeah, great. Father G brought out the, I guess when we were doing Hellbound, he brought, Dime's flanger that he had on that. I guess a Dunlop, it was a flanger MXR thing, but it was a rack mount. Because I brought out my other flanger, the Eddie Van Halen flanger and everything like that. I was just like, he goes, this is actually the setting Dime actually used on the record. I'm like, all right, well then let's just use that thing. You know what I mean? It was actually some of Dime's actual gear. So Grady brought that thing out, and then but we have there's a couple things in, with Dime's rack, and then obviously the noise gates and everything like that. If you're going to be doing a Pantera tribute band, it's essential. You need, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, if we're going to be doing a chicken tortilla soup, you need the chicken in the tortilla soup. It's essential you have the chicken, because it's called chicken tortilla. So I mean, with Dime, you need those noise gates, because I use the MXR, the Dunlop noise gate, the MXR ones, which are great. And then we also have Dimes. Grady has a bunch of ones that Dime was using. So when I'm standing in front of that rig with my pedals on, usually you'd hear because the pedals are on. So you hear all that white noise. It's dead silent. And then you could still play. I mean, everything's there. I mean, it's just like, wow. So as far as how chunky it is and everything like that, like it's pure lightning. But I mean, because usually you got to step on the pedal. If Dime was in the studio, he could do, he could go da-na-na-ch, da-na-na, and turn the pedal off. Da-na-na, 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 da-da-da, and turn the pedal off. So it's not da-da-da, da-da-da, da-na-na, da-na, you know what I mean? So this way, if those noise gates are on, it just stops, cancels all that. But so the noise gates are essential. If you're gonna be playing any of St. Dime stuff, you need the noise gates, without a doubt.
Of course.
Make sure you pack that up in your little gig bag.
Yeah, for sure. Last summer, you made history playing in what many people refer to as the greatest heavy metal concert of all time. You were on double duty as well. Obviously, you did the Pantera set. And then a little bit later in the evening, of course, you played what would end up being your final show with Ozzy. You know, looking back now, when you woke up that morning, you know, can you talk me through what was going through your mind, and you know how you geared yourself up for what would be one of the most emotional shows, perhaps, of your life?
Well, no, I just I think, you know, when you're in it, you're not really thinking about it, you know, because you think about it later on. But I mean, after we did the show, I mean, you know, playing with, you know, Phil, Rex, and Charlie when we did Pantera Celebration, it's always a blast. So we were up there, we did knock that out. I went back, I had to shave my legs and then put the kilt on. So put on my Sabbath, the purple kilt, and then came out and we were playing with the boss just to make sure, you know, I was just making sure, checking on him between me, Mike, Tommy, and Father Adam over there, just to make sure he's good to go. You know what I mean? So I would just keep checking on him just to make sure his voice was doing okay, because he hadn't sang in 6 years. I mean, he's making the records, but you're not, you know, you could take breaks in between. I mean, that was my main concern, just making sure he was going to be all right. But when we were doing Mama, I'm Coming Home, I remember Father Justin put the acoustic, he spiked it, like he didn't put me near the microphone. So I'm like, the friggin' acoustics over here, and I had like the mic stands where that blue chair is. I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me, right? So we started, and then I heard the boss like crack one of the notes, and I just go, all right, I have quite the metal conundrum right now. I mean, not a pickled conundrum, a metal conundrum. So I was like, how am I going to get the guitar over to here without stopping playing? You know, so I was just hoping maybe Chris Angel could advise me on some magic at this point to try and get the guitar to levitate over to here, but it was just, couldn't get in touch with Father Chris. So I had to manually pick up the guitar and I had to stop playing. So I was just like, oh, the hell with it, man. So I just, you know, had to get the guitar over to the vocals. But yeah, just comedy, you know, because it's just like, here's the biggest show on the planet, right? And there's always got to be some Spinal Tap moments going on. It without fail. So that was pretty funny. But I mean, I thought Oz did great. And then, you know, we were, when we got done playing with the boss, we were walking off stage. Then I ran into Axl. I was like, hey, what's going on, brother? You know, I haven't seen him in a bit. And so we were just talking. I was like, oh, you sounded great, man. And you and the fellas and everything like that. And then because I still have my kilt, I go, well, I'm wearing a kilt because you retired it. So I had, somebody's got to wear it. So the whole thing is we went back over and I watched, me and Axl, I watched Sabbath with Axl. So, you know, we were sitting over there with Mom and everybody like that. So, and it was, I mean, pretty amazing, just getting chills, just watching them up there. They created this whole thing. It was a pretty amazing day. But then, you know, after that, I was talking with Oz, and Oz was like, Zakk, we got to end up doing something like when we No More Tears, when you were going through your almond Skinnerd phase. He goes, you know, like we'll do like, you know, so it's heavy but melodic or whatever, you know, like doing No More Tears. And I said, sure, you must be kidding. And he goes, no, Zakk, don't call me Shirley, and I'm not kidding. It's like, and I just, who doesn't love Leslie Nielsen and Naked Gun? But I mean, I was like, Oz, of course, man. So, I mean, I wasn't, you know, I don't think any of us were picturing Oz passing away 2 weeks after the gig. So I just figured, you know, in between while he's still doing rehab, hopefully he can get, we'll make records. And then hopefully, because the festival went so well, Mom puts together a Back to the Beginning once a year and does like, you know, we'll do one in Brazil, do one in Japan. You know, that one was in Birmingham, then do another one in the States somewhere. You know, you could just mix it around every year. You know, one in Germany, one next year, the next one would be in, you know, California, the next one's in Chicago, the next one's in, you know, like you said, you could just do it all over the world. But and give Ozzy something to shoot for once a year. But I mean, that's the way I was looking at everything. And then, you know, when I got the call from Jackie Boy that, you know, that Oz passed away, I was shocked because I didn't picture him. You know, because he's just kind of like Keith Richards, Lemmy, Ozzy. You just picture they're like the air you breathe and they're going to be around forever, you know?
Of course. Like you said, you caught the headline set. Was there anyone else during the day that you kind of had a peek at, or any other sets that really impressed you?
Well, no, I mean, because when we got there, and then it was just everybody trying to get ready. But I mean, seeing everybody backstage, but you couldn't not hear everybody playing. You know what I mean? So by the time we got down there hearing Guns and then Metallica and everybody, yeah, everybody sounded great, man.
Of course.
And then Alice and Jerry and the guys and everything like that. So and Mikey and everybody, William and Sean. So, Alice crushed it. I mean, it was a great day, man, for sure. Nuno and the guys, when they were knocking out, and then obviously Youngblood, singing Changes and the whole audience singing. It was great.
Yeah, powerful stuff. Obviously, you've got a killer new record that you're out to promote. One question that probably
and thank you very much, but like people ask me, they're like, Zakk, what's so special about this album compared to all the other, the Black Label, the Engines of Demolition? Because this is where I remember the title of the record.
Of course.
People are like, why is this? What is this album? Why is it so special? I go, why? Of all the other Black Label albums, this is the new one. The next one. Great. It's like, did you have an epiphany, or is there something that made think this album's bad? I go, no, it's the new one. That's pretty much it.
Fair play.
Yeah, that's about it.
But I guess, one question that seems to crop up occasionally is, could we ever expect some new music from the Pantera celebration? You with Phil and Rex and Charlie. Is there anything floating around?
I think what the thought was, I think Philip and Rex were either going to listen to some, past material or stuff that Rita gave the fellas. If there's unfinished things, like let's say if Eric Clapton was going to play with Mitch and Noel, this is the way I always look at it, and like they were like, Eric, would you want to go out and pay tribute? We're going to go out and celebrate Jimmy and everything like that, and it'd be like Eric with his cream tone and with his SG, and just going to go out and Eric's going to sing and play Jimmy's stuff with Mitch and Noel, and it's like we have this unreleased material. It's just this. Here's a song that Jimmy wrote on a tape recorder. It's called Purple Haze, but it's not. It's just him going through the song structure and the melody and the lyrics, but he didn't properly record it. It's just him on the guitar, So then Eric would just record it properly with the guys, but it was written by Jimmy, so it would be like Dime's unfinished songs. You know what I mean? So, and that never saw the light of day. It was just Dime, right? He had the whole, let's say, pick any song, whether it's I'm Broken or 5 Minutes Alone or whatever. But it was just Dime on a tape recorder playing it. And it was like, if you guys want to record it, properly, you know what I mean? And let Phil come up with a melody and sing on it and whatever. But I mean, I think that was the idea of, new Pantera songs, but I mean, not us writing songs. I mean, because it has to come from the mind of Dime and Vinny, Philip and Rex. That's Pantera, you know what I mean?
Of course.
This is Pantera Celebrate. This is the tribute band, man, you know what I mean? So
I think if there's anyone that could do it justice, and has been, of course, like I last saw you at Wembley, it's you. And I think there's a lot in common between you and Dime. Maybe you might be a bit more of an alternate picker, perhaps. He might have had a bit more of a legato edge. But I think, when it comes to picking, your style is so ferocious. You seem to pick more from like the arm rather than the wrist. It's very intentional. And whenever I try doing that myself, I find the speed is high, but I lose like the accuracy. But you've never suffered from that. You've got the speed and the accuracy. How do you do it?
It's not pushing. It depends on how many drinks you've had. You know what I mean? but no, I always tell everybody, they're like, oh, Zakk, I mean, if Dime was playing my stuff, it would sound like Dime playing the solo to No More Tears or the solo to Mama, I'm Coming Home. Like even as simple as something as that, I'd go, yeah, I would, if I listened to it, I'd go, it sounds like my buddy playing the solo to Miracle Man. I go, that's Dime. I could just tell it's him. And like you said, whether it's legato or Dime's picking, because Dime can pick great too. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of it. I mean, it's just like Steve Vai. If Steve Vai's playing, if Father Steve's playing a Van Halen song, it's going to sound like Steve playing a Van Halen song. You know what I mean? Because every day, like even when we were doing Gen X, I'd walk into sound check, immediately who's playing whether I don't know immediately whether it was Father Nuno, Father Steve, Father Ingve. It's just, and then when Father Tosin would get up there, like immediately I would know within 2 notes who's playing what. You know what I mean? So, and I think that's the beauty of a guitar. You know what I mean? It's just because it's so expressive. You know, because it's everybody's feel and attack and touch. You know, because I remember even Rudy Sarzo was like, Zakk, like Randy, he goes, his touch was so light. And I was like, wow. But when you hear it, I mean, that's how, you know, when you listen to Randy's live solo, I mean, it's just like how graceful it is. And but just like it's a light touch. And like you said, if you're picking aggressive, like Eddie was very aggressive when he picked, you know, and played, which is a very aggressive attack. But and same thing with Jake, very aggressive. You know, when Jake's picking, I mean, it's just a very aggressive. He's a very aggressive player, for sure, and you could hear it. You know what I mean, in the notes. So, but yeah, but like you said, somebody like Alan Holdsworth or Steve Morse, I mean, and Al Di Meola, between the three of them, Al and Steve pick every note, whereas Alan Holdsworth, it's all legato to get that sound note. You know what I mean? If Alan Holdsworth was picking every note, it wouldn't be. He wants it to sound fluid like a saxophone. You know what I mean? So yeah, because there is no right or wrong. It's just it's what flavor you want in the soup.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, it's the truth, man.
I think one last thing just to touch on is you mainly do alternate picking, but there are some of your licks where there's a bit of economy, like you might be doing a pentatonic run on the higher strings. And I think a big penny drop moment for me when I was trying to learn your stuff was that you might do like a down, up, up, down kind of motion, you know. So you're going down on the high E and then up on the high E again, then up onto the B and then down for the final note on the B.
I mean, well, it depends on. I mean, it depends on what, you know, what's, you know. I mean, for me, I mean, as far as, but like you said, if you want to, as far as hammer-ons and pull-offs, but I mean, well, like you said, if you wanted to chicken pitch anything, you know. But yeah, I mean, most of the time, it is what it is, you know. I mean, whatever sound you want to get. So, but most of the time for me, I'm always picking everything. You know what I mean? So. And that's that.
Badass. Well,
So,
thank you so much for joining us today, Zakk.
all right,
Been
my
great
brother.
catching up.
Always good talking to you, buddy.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, guys.